TMNT The Hyperstone Heist is often roped into a handful of wonderful spin-off titles, largely developed to give Sega owners a unique home gaming experience. The game is often considered a spiritual sequel of the storied events of Turtles in Time, with a large majority of these comparisons coming by the many repurposed assets seen throughout. However, as you continue to play through these new scenarios, not only will you soon realize it's far more complex than you initially imagined, but will leave you questioning what Konami attempted to conjure up here with their latest Turtle entry. As you might assume from the numbering of these episodes, this is the 5th episode in my TMNT marathon, so as promised, a follow-up to my current timeline theory is about to unfold. To those new to this channel, proceed with caution here, as this is in fact my own personal take on the classic Konami timeline. Growing up with this edgy little system opened doors for me. A segue into a world filled with a beautiful array of exceptional home ports. Shoot, it was the only place I could go to experience a true taste of arcade excellence. I had a large variety of glorious shooters at my fingertips, blood codes for those hardcore fighters, and a revolving door of new sports titles for every season opener. I finally remember the Genesis becoming home to the definitive Double Dragon experience. I'm gonna keep it real here. I had to be in the mood to even attempt to tackle the NES game. Sega was doing the work of the arcade gods, giving us a tiny glimpse into these possibilities, offering a far greater couch co-op experience for those grade school sleepovers with friends. With so many of my favorite games making their in-your-house debut, I could only imagine the shocking look on my fellow Jenny owners' faces upon discovering we were getting a brand new Turtles game. In the before time, it was widely misunderstood, scrutinized as a cheap Turtles in Time knockoff. Was it though? Because over time it blossomed, and I could debate the case that this felt closer to the arcade original than a Turtles in Time adaptation. A unique home console experience that gets a great deal of inspiration from NES Turtles 2 arcade, with the irony here being that so many of us wished for a true home port of the original TMNT arcade, and I can't help but to feel that Genesis would have been a great home for it. Could it be that Konami was hinting at something here the entire time? Well, maybe I'm onto something. As we previously discovered, the events of Turtles 4 had in fact come full circle, now giving Splinter and the original NES Turtle Squad their happiest day. Wait, not like that. Although looking at some evidence through a subjective lens can make them appear far-fetched, that doesn't mean there wasn't a plan in place for this idea to begin with. What if I told you that these events I'm about to reveal here today predates the entire Konami timeline as we know it? A starting point to make sense of all this, where comically, the last entry in the series would canonically become the first. But how will we come to this revelation? We've now witnessed a rampaging Super Shredder on multiple occasions, so it's no shock he'd be at our necks here. Hey listen, this won't be the first time I've stirred up the pot with my crazy theories, to then proceed by flipping them on their head, for a lovely mess to rage at. For those who decided to stick with me throughout my madness, this review is for you, as I've conjured up another theory that ties together these unprecedented events, as they now unfold into the second half of this timeline, introducing the arcade portion of said events. Good grief, what was once a plain old Turtles review has quickly gone off the rails here, huh? But you know what? We've come this far, why stop there, as it's only fair we attempt to crack open this Hyperstone so we can figure out what exactly is inside, and just what led to Shredder's discovery of this mighty relic to begin with. What we do know, leading up to these in-game events, is that with the assistance of Krang, Shredder has discovered a powerful new energy source buried deep within the core of Dimension X. Pure raw energy with unlimited potential, able to be extracted into a crystallized state that our fiendish duo would dub the Hyperstone. For comparative measures, think of the Hyperstone in terms of sheer raw power of that of the Master Emerald. As around this time, the Sonic series was smack dab in the middle of an adventure to save a certain Guardian's floating island, which just so happens to be powered by its own Hyperstone. Described as a jewel with godlike powers that not only heightens the user's own abilities, but kinetically charges you with the raw energy of the stone. So even as far back as the conception of a Supersonic or Super Saiyan, you could sort of begin to see the direction these franchises were taking with their character transformations, which is why I refer to the in-game Super Shredder form at moments in time as a transcended or perfected super state. This only further begs the question, leading into today's story, did Shredder eventually seek out the mutagen as an alternative means to unlock this newly obtained super state, ultimately leading to his uncontrollable downfall? Because something tells me we may find our answers by the end of this journey. As we take a trip back to Liberty Island, we discover April is hot on the lead of the latest breaking news report. Strange occurrences have recently been reported all across the city as the good citizens of Manhattan claim to be experiencing a strange phenomenon, which causes the environment around them to slowly shrink down, closing in on them with every moment that passes. As April begins to report on these findings, things quickly come to a halt as Shredder hijacks the airwaves, delivering his latest and greatest broadcast yet. I must say, the dude is looking more brolic than ever here, as if he's been injecting the Hyperstone sauce right into his veins, looking to further demonstrate the stone's power, quickly turning Manhattan into a holiday snow globe to leave on display. With the city now under Shredder's thumb, we again turn to our heroes, who can be found at home, lounging around like total geeks as the city is taken hostage. The Turtles jump into action, taking to the neighboring sewers on an express path to the Technodrome, looking to hand-deliver another turtle-themed whipping by those boys in green. The in-game mechanics that encompass the Hyperstone Heist are right on par with its Turtles in Time counterpart. It's solid overall, with a few fine-tuned adjustments which needed to be made to further complement this experience, while keeping comfort in mind when gripping those crescent-shaped Sega controllers. This gives you a bit more control when it comes to our turtle setups. For starters, we now have a designated run button, allowing you to chain together those rushdown combos with finesse. There's now no need to rack up speed first, or abuse your thumbs by aggressively tapping the D-pad. This especially comes in handy when choosing a turtle other than the Speedball himself, as the latest batch of badniks are programmed with far quicker movement patterns and advanced defensive strategies looking to overpower our squad. Although stage assets are heavily influenced by Turtles in Time, they also take a good deal of inspiration from our very first Turtles arcade game. They sorta got that Castlevania Bloodlines thing going, with a few less stages throughout, but are far more expanded upon and well fleshed out across them. You may have also noticed that there's no throw button here, as events unfold quite differently, so you won't be required to warm up that pitching arm when confronting Shredder in the Technodrome. Even though we won't be traveling through time, we can still take a moment and just marvel at our expanded surroundings here, as the many streets we once traveled down take us to new destinations to embark on, perhaps harkening back to the early city life per se. Well, let's see for ourselves, shall we? As we look to take matters into our own hands right from the turtle lair, making our way up to the city's surface. But hold up a sec, before we do, I think I'll switch up my turtles a bit first and get things popping off with those sweet stylized comic colors. As things look to get underway, we're quickly greeted by an all-out ambush down here in the sewers. It appears Shredder didn't waste an ounce of time bringing the fight to the turtles. As you put those talents on full display, you'll soon notice that these turtles have a certain swagger about them as they execute their offense, striking with a bit more grace and fluidity, landing each combo with a unique blend of animation frames. The latest training drills have indeed paid off, bringing the pain as a large assortment of enemy waves pour in through each sewer sector. You'll be putting the work in down the stretch as enemy encounter rates spike, and you'll be begging for an opening to make your way above ground. The streets above will take you to those familiar stomping grounds, as the high-paced action and amplified tunes slowly seep into your psyche. Just as you get into your alley cat feels, the streets will soon branch off into new pathways for exploration as you get a glimpse of the back alleyways. This is where you get that first wave of deja vu as a parking lot brawl breaks out and motors begin to rev up, sending you back to relive those simpler times when you were just a baby tortoise. Speaking of way back when, it now appears that these two locations were mere blocks apart in distance from each other the entire time, which also begs the question, what about the sewers? As we make our way back down below, where it appears those sketchy meatballs we ordered prior have now hatched into some gnarly pizza monsters, taking charge below the waters like a torpedo, now rising up for a tasty turtle two-piece a la carte. These sewers seem vastly different than the ones we encountered in Turtles 4, as the low tide washes in old scrappy Pleatherhead, looking eager to stretch his bones for a good sparring match. He will stick and move, carving you up with a flick of the wrist, only to steamroll over you if you get too close. If you time your attacks just right, you can reset his truffle shuffle with every 4 body blows, causing him to barrel towards you on the 4th. Rinse, wash, and repeat, and you send him upstream to fight another day. Who knows, maybe our paths will cross again in the near future, or should I say, this was a real blast from the past. It should be also noted here that Pleatherhead's creation was a result of exposure to some mutagen runoff in his local habitat, mutated as a baby alligator, now finding himself in the sewers, which perhaps explains why he wound up lurking around in these parts to begin with, well before the Rat King ever thought about taking over the underground. With a paper trail left behind, the Turtles take to their hoverboards, city surfing in style, now in pursuit of Shredder's ghastly, ghost-themed cruiser. This ain't no party on the waters, folks. We got a wave of party crashers headed our way, followed by rows of mousers surveillancing the waters, strapped with jetpacks, looking like a pack of angry piranha. Keep steady, Goofy footing it across the ocean as you maneuver past a trail of pirates' booty polluting the waters. With a bit of resilience, you reach your destination, sneaking aboard a haunted excursion across the SS Foot. There's not much paranormal activity here, outside the ugly mugs the Foot comes equipped with, now working in unison like a loyal crew of swashbucklers, lining the ship's cargo with booby traps. Remember, this boat has seen better days, so if you aren't careful, you'll get a taste of some vintage hardwood. Shake it off and power through as you look to be docking soon, out front of the Cave of Wonders. Here you bump into Rocksteady, looking to halt your advances, while I'm sure Bebop isn't too far behind, as he now whips out those vintage arcade sets, firing aimlessly through the cave, looking to pump your shells full of lead. Get too close and have a taste of some vintage leather, straight to the noggin, while our favorite mutated rhino muscles his way through your defenses with those notorious shoulder tackles. Keep a steady pattern going, dropping down between each set of shoulder tackles to get those licks in momentarily till he begins his next windup. Slug away, listening for the appropriate sound cues, and eventually Rocksteady will drop like a sack of potatoes, revealing an opening inside the cave that leads out to Shredder's new hideout. Well, I must say, Shredder's got good taste. This little bachelor pad of his has got some excellent features. Not only does he have a keen eye for decor, but I can sort of see where he pulls his inspiration from. There's some great historical pieces here that almost feel otherworldly, as if we have somehow journeyed back to another time period. Let's just pray there aren't any tiger statues sitting around, itching to come to life for a quick jump scare. The attention to detail throughout the entirety of this adventure is superb. From the highly polished sprite designs to the additional background layers brings these characters to life, popping right out these vivid environments. Also, I just wanted to say, the ceiling spike beds are a nice touch, and really pulls this look together. Playing through this just finds me wishing, if only we could have gotten that definitive TMNT arcade experience right here on the Genesis. I mean, just imagine battling a 16-bit Shogun here. Well, we may not encounter the Headless Horseman here, but still, I can't help but to think, with the new breed of pyromaniacs making our lives a real nightmare, there's gotta be a larger entity at work here, lurking behind the scenes. Rest assured, we'll get those answers sooner than later as you make your way to the private rooms located in the back of Shredder's estate, now opening up to some illegal activities taking place behind closed doors. Well, if it isn't old Tatsu, looking live and well, now leading his own group of warriors to do Shredder's bidding. This group of Foot Guard are indeed elite, fighting in unison, side by side with their fearless general. You will need to strategize quickly here, as Tatsu will send reinforcements in waves, as he looks to take to the air, raining down a fury of tiny throwing knives, shredding our poor boys to pieces. Have one turtle clear the foot soldiers while the other sticks to Tatsu, with an offensive blitz preventing him from playing keep away. He can run back and forth all he wants, but will ultimately find out the hard way, as his fate was sealed the moment he aligned himself with Shredder, quickly getting dropped once again. Moments later the room shifts, revealing an underground passage that leads our team back to the Technodrome. It's gonna be a hike ahead to the old Silver Dome, as Shredder's forces regroups, gathering his fallen army for a rogue-style gauntlet, now rematching our turtles with the head honchos of each stage. The Hyperstone can't be too far ahead, as its effects are beginning to show, as Shredder has slowly infused his army with the Jewel's power, heightening each of these warriors with dark energy. These aren't the same familiar faces you once threw down with, appearing soulless and void to the touch, remaining mute of words, strictly looking to kill. Although each faster and stronger to the touch, they also fall even harder. Stick to your faithful strategies and perfect them as you did in the past. As you put Tatsu away once more, you head towards the nearest exit with your sights on the Technodrome. Unfortunately, your path ends here as a familiar face makes a shocking return. Old Baxter Stockman, a once renowned scientist, now gone rogue, forming a deadly alliance with Shredder, now looking to test out his mousers on our teenage turtles. Baxter's offense is every bit as vintage as his faulty hovercraft, just a janky bag of bolts floating about. Take to the air, rocking the sucker from side to side, loosening up those old rusty parts. It's soon apparent that he's just as much a pushover as he was in the animated series. Just keep in rhythm, overwhelming him with those speedy drop kicks, keeping off your feet to avoid those tiny toe munchers. In the next moments that pass, his hovering toolbox will go up in smoke, sending Baxter packing back to the old drawing board. With a clear path ahead, our squad sets their sights on the Technodrome, climbing on into the Silverdome for another series finale against our two favorite bad guys. The Technodrome has a good mix of past and future tech, spread about as if this rendition of the Technodrome would be the prototype for what would become known as the Starbase of the future. It's got those familiar traps we have grown accustomed to throughout, so it's integral to not lose sight of what worked here in the past, or should I say future. The music along this finale, and really all across the Hyperstone Heist, gives you that big fight feel, as the tracks themselves feel slightly sped up, just enough to add a heightened feel to those big moments, while the Genesis soundboard gives it the edge, automatically elevating your heart rate the moment each track sets in. Also, I don't know about you guys, but those production models of the foot displayed here in the backgrounds got me feeling like Judgment Day is upon us. As if at any moment now, a foot soldier will come riding in, telling me to get down, as he fires away into the heart of this infernal machine. The control room is just ahead, where we bump into Krang, now looking to test out some of his latest toys for that big old android body of his. He's definitely strapped up with enough jetpacks to blow the roof off this thing, speeding back and forth inside the Technodrome as he launches a series of missiles from his chest cavity. Maneuver each wave of firepower as he attempts to keep this big boy on the road, and with enough resistance, he will soon overheat from that aerial assault, leaving Krang hobbling away in defeat, vowing that Shredder will have his revenge. It's time to take to the nearest service elevator down below, frying each wave of enemy defenses till you reach the ground floor, opening up to a runway, leading our heroes out from the Technodrome, where a large structure can be seen, extracting the power from the Hyperstone, supplying Super Shredder with an unlimited flow of energy, which he can channel at his own free will. Shredder will be delighted to teach you all about his latest discoveries, as this fight quickly ignites as a kinetically charged blast surges from his fingertips. If I could give this form a title, I'd call this Hyper Shredder, as his power comes directly from the stone, giving him the strength of Super Shredder, but with heightened speed and agility. He's quick, real quick, and he will easily have you working for this fight, weaving back and forth across the arena at Mach speeds. You will still have those key moments to strike between attacks, but his recovery time is superb, and you will need to do some mental gymnastics counting down till it's time to unload. You're gonna just need to adjust accordingly to hang with him. Just remain persistent, rolling with the punches as you master his patterns, striking back with each advance until the immense power radiating through Shredder's veins soon becomes unbearable. As you look to place the final dagger into his chest, the flow of power sets off a chain reaction within this big brute, sending Shredder spiraling from the sheer chaos down over the side rails, releasing his grasp on the Hyperstone as it shatters before him. As the stone's fragments fall back to Earth, its radiant power dissipates, as does the hold on the city, slowly releasing the effects on Manhattan, and restoring the good people and their city back to all its glory. TMNT The Hyperstone Heist was an excellent attempt at delivering Turtles fans one final adventure through this beloved franchise, delivering a unique experience to those who stuck with Konami's long-running TMNT series up till now. Where Konami could have easily delivered another port of the same old song and dance, they wanted players to have a valid reason for investing in the Sega Genesis, something that is more of a rarity in today's climate. It's a symbol of creative freedom, further fleshing out the universe surrounding our heroes, finding fun new ways to explore these once-traveled roads. A unique story that just might have a bit more lore wrapped within it than what meets the eye. Throughout this journey, there was a few things that was made very apparent. These in-game events aligned quite nicely with those of the original arcade game, so much so that if you placed each of their acts and scenarios side by side, extrapolating the data further, you would find that these events fall along a similar event curve, transitioning into the events of the very first arcade game. We have confirmed the original Konami canon directly ties into the movies and animated series, just as the arcade game was eventually fleshed out further to coincide with the story inside the NES Turtles 2 manual. So, with that established, we can safely say that this game occurs before the events of Secret of the Ooze. Need more evidence? Well, we can confidently say this due to the absence of Toka and Razar, whom reprised their roles in NES Turtles 3 and 4. This also explains how Shredder managed to tap into his Super Shredder state, well before it was depicted on the big screen. Shredder got its first taste of unlimited power, which was then lost due to the fate of the Hyperstone. This invoked Shredder to discover new ways to reach his Super Shredder state. He would accomplish this through his research, experimenting on local street gang members with his very first mutant becoming Rocksteady. I think his timely placement dates all the way back to the very first season of the animated series, where we get a glimpse into Rocksteady's origin. Although the tandem of Bebop and Rocksteady are fan favorites throughout the many incarnations of the series, they were once both part of a larger stable. In fact, we also see the entire team abducted by Shredder and mutated throughout the events of Season 1. Thus, we can safely say that Bebop has not yet been experimented on here, as Shredder is still learning, observing for the potential side effects the ooze may have on Rocksteady, eventually experimenting further on test subjects, until he feels confident to use this newly discovered mutagen on himself, leaving him in a radically unstable state that leads to his own downfall in the second live-action Turtles movie. As it sits now, I believe this game occurs before the very first arcade game, making this an arcade prequel and a sequel to the very first movie all the same. We further back this theory up through the boss encounters we partake in. Baxter is sporting that infernal flying Mouser machine that will eventually get rebuilt when he creates his new red Mouser models revealed in the arcade game. To further add to this theory, Pleatherhead now roams the sewers below, carefree, well before Krang gets a hold of him and makes him a lackey in the Foot Clan pecking order. He only resurfaces later in the game due to the side effects the Hyperstone has had on him, along with the surrounding inhabitants. Well then, what about Super Krang, you say? Well, I have a hunch Krang has always had those sporty red wings, only they're utilized in larger combat areas, like with Starbase. Here inside the Technodrome, it's far more confined, which would explain why he tends to use a different moveset here when fighting the Turtles. As far as Shredder's hideout depicted here, this would further solidify prior events just after the first live-action movie, where we see Tatsu still reprising his role as Shredder's second-in-command, only the hideout has been expanded on, leading deeper below ground where the gauntlet takes place, now an arena for Shredder's entertainment, using the Hyperstone to heighten his cronies' powers, thus indicating why they adopt new colors during the fight. The Hyperstone not only granted Shredder immense power, but opened up his third eye to the potential power the universe possesses. If he couldn't harness it organically, he would do so scientifically, subjecting his body to the radical side effects caused by the secrets of the ooze. The Hyperstone Heist creates the third and final rendition of Shredder, as he now has appeared in the past, present, and future. Yet with each manifestation of Shredder defeated, it's only fitting we go to the source and finish the job, as we now look to track Shredder down in present day, as our story moves forward, leading us into a pizza-powered arcade duology. So with that said, I believe it's time I followed up on those phone calls I mentioned prior. Next time with TMNT, the arcade game. See you there, gang.